Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the witnesses for appearing today. I want to go back to the issue that was raised by Senator Corker. Ambassador Sherman, the Iran Nuclear Review Act of 2015 is abundantly clear, I think, that Congress is supposed to receive all the documentation, all the agreement, all the annexes, all the related materials. It says right in the beginning, the transmission, referring to the transmission of agreements, the President shall transmit to the appropriate congressional committees and leadership the agreement as defined in subsection H1, including all related materials. Subsection H1 specifies that this agreement includes, and I quote the last part of this, any additional materials related thereto, including annexes, appendices, codicils, side agreements, implementing materials, documents, and guidance, technical or other understandings, and any related agreements. I think it's clear that's meant to be completely all-encompassing. And yet we discovered that there's a secret side agreement between the IAEA and Iran, which presumably contemplates the previous military dimensions of Iranian activities, which strikes many of us as a very, very important information to have to evaluate whether or not future activities is in violation of this agreement or not. Now, Senator Corker asked why you haven't given us the document. If I understood correctly, you said it's because we don't have the documents. And my question is, knowing this statute, knowing the intent of the statute and the letter of this law, why didn't you insist that this essential to enforcement document be disclosed?
Senator, thank you very much for your question. As you point out, we don't have the document, and the United States Senate has every single document that the United States government has. Secondly, the reason we did not insist is because we want to protect U.S. confidentiality. This is a safeguards protocol. The IAEA protects our confidential understandings and our confidential arrangements between the United States and the IAEA. Now, I know you will say this is a different situation, and I grant you that this is an international understanding to try to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon, and that is a different circumstance. So in the development of where the IAEA was going, they did come to us for technical expertise, as they came to every other member of the P5+1. And in a classified briefing this afternoon, I will share with you everything I know about this.
So let me
I'm
ask,
also very grateful that the Director General, on his own cognizance, is meeting with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in an informal setting, which is extremely unusual because every other country sort of wonders why he is.
Did I understand you to say to Senator Corker that you personally did not see the final document?
No, what I said is that I was shown documents that I believe to be the final documents, but whether in fact there are any further discussions. You know, what this is about, Senator, are the modalities, the technical modalities that the IAEA uses. And I will share with you this afternoon in a classified setting every single thing I know about that, and I think it will give you great confidence that the IAEA is doing what it needs to do.
I look forward to that, but frankly, it is still extremely disappointing to me. We're being asked to vote to affirm an agreement that seems to me the enforcement of which depends in no small part on a very important document that not only are we not allowed to see, it's not clear to me that you've read the final document or anyone else in our government has actually read it, and you don't have it in your possession.
I have seen the document, as I said, as we were going through the technical discussions with the IAEA. But what is important here, Senator, ultimately what we are talking about here is the credibility of the International Atomic Energy Agency, whether in fact we believe that they are a credible, independent verification organization, which it is. They have done a superb job on the Joint Plan of Action, which is the interim step. All of those reports, because we have had to report to Congress on the compliance under the JPOA, have come up here. They have done a very fine job, and I have trust and confidence in their ability to do a fine job on the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
I'm glad you do, but I think that's a document that we ought to have before us. Let me ask a separate question here. Paragraph 36 of the JCPOA grants to either party the opportunity to walk away from this agreement. Anybody can raise an objection about what the other side is doing. And then after a adjudication process that seems to me lasts about 35 days, if this objection is not resolved to the satisfaction of the complaining participant, then the complaining participant can simply walk away, either side. So Iran, for any reason that Iran deems to be sufficient, can walk away from this agreement. Of course, that would be after they have their 50 or $100 billion, whatever the figure is. Here's my concern. I'm concerned that this dynamic creates a very, this fact creates a very dangerous dynamic, one in which the administration will have a very hard time enforcing anything other than a massive violation. You know, former Secretary of State Schultz and Kissinger wrote a widely read piece some time ago where they suggested that most likely if a violation occurs, it wouldn't be a clear-cut event, but rather the gradual accumulation of ambiguous evasions. So let's say we start to discover the gradual accumulation of ambiguous evasions, which strikes me as extraordinarily plausible. If we were to take any measures at all, any enforcement mechanism of any kind, Iran could invoke paragraph 36, decide that this is unacceptable, and they're walking away. And since this administration has told us so many times, so forcefully, that the alternative to this is war, and so we have to have this agreement, and we had to make all of these concessions after concessions after concessions to get this agreement, why should we believe that in the face of the accumulation of these small but accumulating evasions, that the administration is going to risk Iran walking away from the table? Because I suspect that's pretty likely that that would be their threat.
So, Senator, I appreciate that you believe that Iran will have gotten enormous sanctions relief, and they will be sitting in the driver's seat. But you seem to forget the other half of the equation. Iran will have reduced their centrifuges by 2/3. They will have eliminated 98% of their stockpile. They will have made the Iraq reactor inoperable. They will have allowed inspectors in their country to have 24/7 access to their facilities. They will have
24-day access.
No. For the declared facilities, Iraq, Fordo, and Natanz, the IAEA has 24/7 aspect every day of the week, 365
and the military
days
sites?
of the year. The military sites, if the IAEA believes there is justification for them going to a site, the additional protocol allows them to give 24 hours notice to get into that site. If the country, in this case Iran, says, well, actually, we think you should go to this site, or we think you should have this document, under the additional protocol, they are allowed to suggest an alternative. However, under the additional protocol, that debate about what the IAEA can do can go on for quite some time. So what this agreement did, different than any other arms control agreement ever negotiated, we put a clock on that debate. We said that if the IAEA, under the additional protocol, wants to go to a site, it has to have access to that site. And so we said, you can debate with Iran for 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks, the Joint Commission, which is made up of all of us, looks at that. If we believe on day one of the 7 days we have to consider this situation, that they ought to give access, if 5 out of 8 of us believe the IAEA should get access, and we believe we will always have Europe and the European Union High Representative with us, Iran then has 3 days to provide access. So at the most it's 24 days, but it could be as short as 18 days. And as Secretary Moniz has testified again and again and again, nuclear material cannot be cleansed away. It will be found if it is there. So quite frankly, Senator, what we have negotiated in this agreement is absolutely unprecedented access whenever the IAEA believes that it has a suspicious site that it needs access to.
And Senator, would it be permissible to address the snapback aspect of your question?
At the discretion of the chairman.